Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Actually, I feel like singing today. Good morning, good morning. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Range Woman, the variety show. This is one of our live casts that we're broadcasting live from Facebook as well as YouTube. So hello and good morning. And also happy Chinese New Year from Sydney, Australia. My name is Lala Angela Wang. I am your host and I am also the moreness mentor. I mentor women to find more of their moreness in their life. Good morning, Laura. Hello, hello, hello. So today I have got a treat for you guys. We don't just have one guest. We have two. For my Soulmate Special Limited Edition for Range Woman. If you haven't watched this show before, I created this limited edition about soulmate for a couple of reasons. Number one, because this month I'm actually launching one of my signature program called Somnificence. Basically, it's a program that helped me attracted Scott, my soulmate, and we've been in the relationship for 3 years now. So I basically teach people the system, pass down the knowledge, and hopefully we can have more people that are managing to find their soulmate, but most importantly, keep them too. Because it is my desire to create more, I guess, romantic people that desire to be in a soulmate relationship. And our guests today, oh my God, Marlie and Robert, they have agreed to come on together. I'm so excited. And I'm really excited to hear about their story and share their story with you because it is a very interesting story and there are so many golden nuggets to be learnt inside this. I'm trying to not to spill the beans. It's really hard, but I think the easiest way is just to bring them on and say hello. Hello, Marlie. Hello, Robert. How are you?
Hi. Hey. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thrilled to be here.
So, I think I really want to start because you guys actually have two very separate stories before you meet. And it's really interesting. It's almost like the moment you meet, it's a little bit like, it sounded like it's meant to be. So I'm going to ask Marlie first to tell me about, I guess, who you are and how do you think the things that has unfolded in your life led you to Robert?
Oh man, what a question. So I'm Marlie. So I'm actually an online coach, master mindset and spiritual teacher. I've been running my own business for about 2 years now. And I met Robert a little under 2 years ago. So I started my business and then I met him within 4 months of starting my business after that. Yeah. Which is wild when I think about it because I think back and think that I've been running my business for so long and then I met the man, but really they all kind of came at once.
Time is a tricky thing with us.
Yeah. In our life. But prior to Robert, relationship-wise, I experienced about a decade of really tumultuous, very karmic, up and down relationships, ones that were filled with lots of lessons and things at the time that I was moving through the best that I could. But it wasn't until I came out of those relationships that I started really doing my own personal internal healing and finding personal power and really setting the standard of what I wanted, not only in a relationship, but like just for myself as a human. And I was running the business. I had quit my corporate job and I had two friends in my ear saying, Marlie, you gotta get on Bumble. You have to. It's so much fun. Like the abundance on Bumble. And I was just, and I had always vowed to never do dating sites because I was the horror stories. And I was like, I'm just not about this. I cannot do it. And then I got to this point where I was like, all I'm doing is working. Like, I don't go to a corporate job anymore. I'm home just working on my business all the time. At this point, all of my friends had moved away from the city that I was in. Well, I'm still in now, but all of my friends had moved away, and I was like, all I do is work. Like, maybe it would be fun just to play, like just to see what's out there for fun. So I downloaded the app, and the first night I spent far too much time on it, like ridiculously, right? Like 2 hours of the swiping.
Abundance, right?
And I was just like, oh my God, I was so overwhelmed. And then, but by the end of it, I felt terrible. I had this like sick feeling in my stomach, and I was just like, oh gosh, like I feel awful. And being a mindset coach, I know if I feel off, there's something here, So I felt a lucky feeling showing up. So I went straight to the journal, and I was like, what is this? Why am I feeling like this? And I realized that as I was doing this excessive swiping, I was making up stories about these guys that I hadn't even had a single conversation yet at this point, but I was making up stories about these men that they were jerks, that I had to defend myself against them, that like I could picture myself going out to dinner and having to be like really like guarded and like hard. And studying energy for 10 years, I'm like, oh, okay, I have some masculine energy protectionism going on here, And so I literally, I just went to the journal, and I was like, why do I feel it's unsafe to be feminine? Why do I feel it's unsafe to be female? Why do I feel it's unsafe to engage in a new relationship? And I just like went to town on this, and I unlocked so much. But what's so funny is that I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't looking for my soulmate. I wasn't looking for a partner. I downloaded it for fun. Right? And then it brought up this huge revelation around the imbalance of masculine and feminine energy that I was holding. And once I uncovered it, I didn't think, oh, I'm going to find my soulmate now. I thought, oh my, I'm going to make so much more money in my business now that I've feminine energy.
I love it.
I did. But what is so wild, it felt so opening. But in the next 2 days was when I started talking to Robert. It was like I healed where I was, and then all of a sudden there was a match of like him. We can see that really clearly looking back. But at the time, I just got a message from a guy who said he was intuitive. And I was like, I'm sorry, you're what? I don't hear men say that word. You're intuitive?
Are you from this planet at all?
Right. That's how I felt. And so the conversations started from there.
Yeah. In that way from Bumble, but I don't think they built personal energetic healing into their algorithm. So like it was universal timing.
Yes.
But we
Marlie,
did. We
business
found
idea.
Right?
Yeah.
Personal energy healing into Bumble. Sorry.
No, at just the right time. I mean,
yeah.
She did her healing, and she was on her own individual journey, and I was much the same.
Tell us about yours.
So I was I was in a relationship with my ex-wife for 14 years.
Wow.
And we had 2 amazing little girls. They are upstairs right now. We have trained them.
During calls, we have like a sign on the door.
Literally, the sign on the door says "The witch is in." It's an old Halloween sign we can't get rid of. But so I had been in a relationship with my ex-wife for 14 years, and was faced with divorce, and it was unexpected. But looking back now, I can see clearly where it was meant to be the way that it was. But for me, it was life shaking. I mean, it was unexpected, and it caused me to face a lot within myself that I wasn't prepared to in some ways, but was more than ready to in other ways. And the first of which was like really just defining who I was and the man that I was choosing to be. I mean, honestly, 2 weeks after finding it out, I just said, like, this is it. This is how I'm going to be. I had some really incredible experiences come up where I just, and I was assigned to trade. That's the industry I worked in for 14 years. and I had never done energetics work. I grew up in a very like Southern United States Christian household. But I always, I always knew that there was more out there, and I felt that there was more. So I made these declarations after being faced with divorce and said, I'm going to be positive, I'm going to be truthful, and then everything else is up to the universe, up to God. So I did that, and I had no idea what I was doing. Like I literally had no idea what I was doing in terms of like manifestation and aligning myself on the vibration of this amazing human that later came into my life. But it truly set the tone for me to become a match for her, for us, for the life that we have together. So I was on Bumble for a long time before I met her, and I felt the same way. But I was on the male side of it, where I said I've got a lot to give. I got a lot of love to give, and I'm not going to hold back because I'm heartbroken or distressed. Like I'm going to put myself out there, but I also stuck to my pillars and said, like, I'm not going to sacrifice any of who I am for anybody. I actually had women who, told me, you're such a great guy and all, but I'm just not. I said, listen, I'm not the one to push anybody into any relationship, especially right now. So took it easy, took it slow, and met her. I guess it was like 8 months after.
I was on it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I met Robert, and I was like, I'm done.
I think what we've like recounted multiple times is that the real power in our journeys was in us each individually creating our own strength and stepping fully into who we are as individuals before we ever found each other.
Yeah. We were two whole humans when we met. We weren't looking for a half or something to fill, it was like, I was whole in who I was. I knew who I was, and so was he. So when we met, there wasn't this feeling of, I need you for something,
That is so good. And often I talked about in relationship, it's 1 + 1 = 3. One whole human plus one whole human, and you get this divine union, which is really
for sure
a bit like it's like when you form a company, you have directors and you have directors, they have CEOs, they all come together, put their money in, and you create a separate entity, which is a part of each of you, but it's also got a life of its own.
Yeah.
So I love that you guys said that we are whole, and that's the reality. That's the best kind of relationship where you are still you and you get to create your own things. Then you get to create this other awesome things as well. So thank you for saying that, Marlie. I really appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah, I think we have some philosophies in our relationship that I think really help us with that. Like we don't require anything of each other. And there's always space and grace to evolve, to grow, to feel what you're feeling, to be able to communicate what you're going through. And it's just kind of these standards that we've put in place.
Yeah.
Not even like through speaking them by saying like, okay, this is the standard. It's just, it's like a standard of respect and love and space.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I would label it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's difficult in getting used to it, especially if you have like years of past experience that has just reinforced a patterning emotionally where, you get defensive or you're projecting or both.
Totally.
And what we have done for each other and what she said, space and grace. And it took me a while to really settle in because I was so used to the other way. And so, what we've come to know now is when we feel discomfort and we have these like very real ego standoffs where we're just like, we've laughed before about creating this visualization. Do you know the movie Inside Out, the Disney movie?
No.
So it's
that.
great, but it basically characterizes each of the emotions inside of the head of a teenage girl. But in our case, we laugh about like visualizing our people, and I get into these moments where I'm just all in my head and I've an ego standoff and I don't know what to say, and just picturing all the guys in my head running around like, say something.
And I'm just sitting there like waiting. I'm like,
we hold the space.
Yeah.
You know, we stay there and we identify what it is that's really there, the emotions that need to be addressed and just talked about. And she has helped me so much in my healing process, just giving me the space. And I return the favor. Not that it's a favor, but I return for her. I mean, we sense so much of each other's energies. There's so many times where like I just walk into the room and I can feel her. And that's, you know, that's what happened when we first met. We first met each other, and it was truly, we were on the same energetic frequency, and it's like tuning and both of us were just shaking.
That was
like not out of nerve, just like
our first date was
energy.
pretty wild. Yeah.
So now tell me about this wild first date. What was it like?
So, okay. Well, we set it up. We went to a baseball game in the city, and so I told him where I lived. He's familiar with my neighborhood, but I like told him you can park on the street because obviously he's still a stranger. Like I've just been talking to him for a week. Like I don't want to bring you to my house.
And one of the first things that I said to her on Bumble, I said, I like your style. And she was like, so tell me more about what, and I just started naming off all the stuff in her pictures, because that's all you have to go off of.
He described my room looking at the background of my picture. I had a legitimate conversation with two different people. I was like, do I message him back? Like, this is very serial killer-ish. You know?
So just that I claim to be intuitive, I was still possibly a serial killer. So park a block away, you know?
Yeah, totally. Exactly. So I come out of lived in a townhouse at the time. I come out of the townhouse, walk down the street to meet him, and I see him get out of his car. And it's like the second I saw him, my whole body just went like, you know, and it sounds cliche, and it's also really hard to explain because I had never felt anything like that before. But it was just like the second that I saw him, my whole body just got hit. And I didn't understand what was happening, you know? And then as I got closer to him and I'm like starting to shake just talking about it. We're walking and we're talking. I know my whole body is just like, it's just doing that. And it's not like, oh, I'm nervous or anything like that. We had really easy conversation. It was just this moment where I remember looking at him and just being like, who are you? You know, like, what is happening here? And my body shook like that the entire night. Like I was trying to be so cool. Like I was drinking red wine and I was like, don't spill it on yourself, Marlie. Like, be cool. You know, and it was an amazing night. We just talked all night.
Yeah.
And then, you know, hugged at the end of the night. He went home. And then the next morning he texts me and he's like, hey, I'm in the neighborhood. You know?
I was honestly in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Do you want to go get lunch? And I was right in the middle of some projects and I was like, I really don't want to leave right now, but you can come over for coffee. And so he came over. We sat at the table. And now when I think about the conversation that we had at that table, it blows my mind because it's not a conversation you have with somebody you just met.
Though we did get into some very deep conversation the whole first night too, because I mean, we were talking about everything.
Yeah. But he, I think you described the hug.
Yeah. I remember saying, I don't know if you felt this too, but last night when we hugged, I like something happened. It was like this energetic thing, this electric feeling. And truly, I think it's that feeling that people try to write about and make stories about and movies. And it's that thing that's really there. But I told her, I said, I don't know what it was, but you know, that it did something. And she was like, oh my God.
I showed him my shaking hand because he's here again. So my body was shaking again. So we're sitting at the dining room table and I'm like, look at my hand. Like, I'm not nervous. I was like, you activated something in me and I don't know what it is, you know? And so we just ended up having this conversation about like the things we were feeling in our body, and come to find out, like, he was feeling it too. He had been shaking all night too. And I was just like,
my goodness me.
what is happening?
So where do we go from here?
Yeah, like, now what? Really blurred, you know, because it's like, it was just, as much as we could be together, we were together. And what's wild is that because I'd quit my job and my dream was always just freedom and travel. I had 2 major trips booked in the coming months. So we met at the end of April. At the end of May, I left for 16 days, something like that, to go to New York and San Diego. So I was gone for over 2 weeks. And then in the month of July, I was gone for almost a month, where I went to Thailand and Bali. So there was a lot of like separation that was happening. Yeah. But it was, for me, what was so significant about it was I was always in relationships, the independent one. Like, you go to you, I do me. I don't have to see you all the time. No big, like, Miss Independent, you know? And being away from him was painful. Like, it made me mad because I didn't like it. You know, I didn't like
mad
what
angry or mad crazy?
Both.
Both.
I felt insane. I was like, Marlie, get over it. Like, and be in the present moment, enjoy your trip, you know? But I felt this just pull constantly. And I couldn't understand it.
It wasn't until I think she had a conversation with my parents that she like really realized. It was when you got back from Bali. It was when
I got back from Bali. Your mom affirmed it.
Yeah.
So I go to my journal for all of my things, right? And so I was journaling on the plane to Thailand, and there was just this feeling like I could never get enough of him. Like, it was never enough, and I hated it because it was uncomfortable, you know. And I wanted myself to be satisfied. And as I was writing in my journal, so like the way that I journal is, I like to connect to my spirit guides.
She channels.
I channel.
She channels. She plays it down, but she channels.
So I have conversations in my journal, basically, like talking to my guides, and I receive answers.
So do you actually literally write like a script kind of like conversation? Yeah. That is so cool.
Yeah, I've got about
really cool.
52 journals of just wild things.
Content for years.
Yeah. But the answer I received around this feeling was, Marlie, this is why you and him are forever. That feeling of never being satisfied is the reason that you and him will go forever. And I was just, oh my gosh, you know? So I made peace with the feeling that it's never going to be enough. I can't spend enough time with him in the world and it be enough. And that's why we constantly are just more. But when I got home from Thailand, we sat with his parents, and his parents understand this, you know, because here we were only like 3 or 4 months into our relationship at that point, you know, and it's this like, oh my thing. They were the same way. Yeah. And his mom, I hadn't told them this revelation, but his mom literally said to me as we're sitting at the dinner table after dinner talking, she goes, it's just like, I can never get enough of him. And they're like 60 years into marriage, you know? And I was like, yes, that's the thing. And it was cool. But I mean, our entire relationship has blown my mind, and it continues to blow my mind every day. I mean, it's hard to put into words, to be quite honest. But this is not to say that it's been all sunshine and rainbows. Like, the first year of so we moved in together. We met in April. We moved in together in September. So our first year, all of 2020, living together, we did 10 years worth of healing in a year, because it was just like everything that wasn't in alignment had to come up and it had to be seen. So we went like on a fast track of learning how to communicate and hold space for each other and work through things, you know,
especially with lockdown in COVID as well. Like
24/7.
It's like an incubator, right?
Totally. Yeah.
But I mean, for us, like, it was a gift. It was a gift of time and presence that
I used to be very mad at him for going to his job every
mad
day.
at me.
I was
I
like,
would leave to go to
you
work.
leave me every day. Like, just give him a hard time.
Sarcastically, but also
Sincerely.
honest.
So what are some of the biggest lessons or biggest things that you guys had to let go in 2020 in order to step up? Because like, look at you guys. Everybody would have thought, I think a lot of our audience will agree with me, like the whole time you guys are talking to each other, you're just like looking at each other's eyes with these like, you know, there's just love, there's just chemistry in between the two of you. So what are some of the biggest lessons that you guys have learned throughout 2020, I guess, with your fast track development? Robert, I think I'm going to go with you first on this side.
I think that me personally, what I've learned is just really standing in ownership and accountability of myself and my own emotions and communicating. And, you know, it works for us and for her and I because she holds the space for me, and I trust that. And I know that sincerely that, you know, I'm angry about something. Well, it's not her fault, and she's not going to make it my fault either. I have the space to really explore what it is that's causing this. I've come into so much more of a profound knowledge of my own personal spiritual journey in my time with her, because there's so much that we layer over the purity of our own souls over years and years and trauma. And I mean, I had an amazing childhood, and for all outsiders, it probably looked like everything was wonderful. And I thought most of it was too, but there's hidden things. And so once you start to do the work to uncover, you know, what it is, because for years I'd been labeled as defensive and angry and aggressive. I'm like, I don't feel it, you know, I don't know, but I got the idea to go inward with her, and she allowed me and held the space for me to really explore what it is emotionally that I had been holding on to and incorrectly identifying with for years. And so, yeah, I think it's really just the desire to want to clear away all BS personally within me, and the trust in her to allow me the space. And I mean, I remember the first time when I was like frustrated about something or angry, and I told her, I said, you know, I'm pissed, and she was like, good, that's good. Why? That's like, okay. What's going on? What? And I was like, wait, what? What do you mean? She's like, no, yeah, that's good. What, you know? And I'm like, oh, what?
I can be angry.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then I was blessed with the opportunity to then go inward and clear up what it was that was really at the root of my frustration and my anger. Tap into the peace and the love that I know is like at the root of everything I am. So it's really beautiful. It really is.
What about you, Marlie? What make, I guess, one or two biggest lessons that you have learned through that fast tracking?
You know, we talk a lot about, most people don't know how to do the two main things that would solve the entire world, and it's communicate and feel. Like, we're not taught how to communicate. We're not taught it's okay to feel, you know? So this one night, that was the game changer for him. He just expressed, I'm angry. And I said, that's okay. You get to be, like, you get to be a human and feel all of your feelings. And I'm a huge advocate for that in all things. But I think growing up, we're told to not cry, like stop crying. If you're mad, then there's something wrong with you. It's like, if you're not happy, then you need to get a pill to fix it, you know? And I'm just a huge advocate. Be a human, feel all the feels that you have, you know? I know that if he's feeling something in the moment, I didn't create the wound, you know? And so if something that's getting triggered up right now, good, let's talk about it, because that's how we're going to heal it, you know? me doing that for him, he learned how to do it for me, you know? So we just have this like space for if someone's going through something, even if it triggers me a little bit, I've got to have the recognition to be able to like say, this isn't me. And I need to, but I think the thing that was the biggest thing of all that helps us to create that is we have a standard of you don't leave, you know? So when we butt heads and we have what we call the ego standstills, we don't leave the room as much as like you want to like throw things and storm out.
And you know,
yeah, you like get as far as like the bathroom, you know? But we have a standard of just you sit in it no matter how frustrated.
That is so uncomfortable.
It's so uncomfortable.
But in developing that,
the most major
when we feel uncomfortable now too, we're like, you know, we're uncomfortable, but we're also like, oh, this is gonna be so good.
And we know that because we know that at the end of the day, our goal is the same. We want to be together, and we want it to be the best relation, like just like that love that always reaches another level. We want to create together. We want to explore together. We want to change the world together. So if we have that same goal, then no matter what we're feeling in the moment, we got to sit in it together, you know? And so it took a few times of us going through these standstills and then emerging on the other side with these massive breakthroughs that just brought us closer for us to know when that emotion rises up. I'm so, you know, I'll sit there in my head. I'm just like, oh God, I hate this so much, but it's going to be so good. I know it's going to be so good. You know what's going to happen on the other side. But I mean, it's, you know, we'll sit there for an hour sometimes or more, like just trying to, because the ego and emotion is so strong, you know, like emotional energy will take you for a ride if you let it.
Oh yeah.
So it's, you know, when it raises up, you know that there's something that's really there, you know, and he talks about his defensiveness. The defensiveness was his survival mechanism, you know. It's like that's all people. When you have a wound and then that wound gets triggered, the immediate thing you want to do is defend it, you know. And so he's got to have the headspace to know, okay, if I'm angry and I'm wanting to defend, it means I'm trying to protect something.
Yeah.
And same for me, you know, if I'm getting bullish and wanting to fight back, it's like, okay, what are you trying to protect? And then remembering at the end of the day, like this person is your safe space. Like you don't have to defend against them, you know? Yeah. And so I think communication and being okay with what you're feeling is like, that'll change your entire world. I mean, think about that. What if the whole world learned how to communicate and that it was okay to feel things? Yeah. Like, we would have an entirely different world.
So I work in construction, and for me, it's just like when you talked about in sort of that kind of space, I'm like, oh my God. And that's why my stomach was turning the whole time. You talked about how we don't go anywhere, we just stay here. I'm like, can you imagine if I have a group of guys trying to resolve an issue? I'm just like, oh my God, they're going to kill each other.
Yeah, well, maybe just start with one guy.
Maybe. So what would be your suggestion for couples perhaps that are only just starting to do this work, or maybe they've never sort of done this work before? What do you think are the first maybe one or two baby steps people in relationship can start doing so they can be at the space where you guys are at? Because you guys both have done work individually before the relationship. So what would you say as step one or step two of this whole process to really becoming courageous enough? I'm going to use the word courageous, to be able to feel safe, but at the same time look at yourself and go, okay, this is not me, you know, sort of, this is not the time for me to get defensive, but this is actually the time where we get to have some amazing conversations.
Yeah. Well, the only step that is the first step, and I wouldn't call it a baby step, but it's the only way, is to take ownership for all of your feelings. Yep. Like to not blame your partner for how you feel. The feeling is yours regardless, of what they're doing or what they're not doing. And so the only way to begin to evolve to a relationship where your emotional nature isn't dependent on what they do is to first take ownership of everything that you're feeling inside of you. And it is a courageous thing to do because it's like, oh, that's my fault. Oh, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that is a huge
That's so true.
Yeah. And it's not to say that you don't talk to your partner. Then it's like, I've got to, so if he triggers me, and the first year living together, it was triggered all the time. And so I had to go and in my feelings of wanting to yell at him, wanting to scream and say like stop doing this or whatever. I had to go to my journal and say, what is this first? And then once I got to a place where the emotion wasn't leading me, then I can go and talk to him and say, hey, I'm feeling this. I need to through it with you. Will you help me? Like invite your partner to move through it with you because you're on the same side. I think so many couples feel at odds, like they're battling, and it's at the end of the day, like you're on the same side, So invite your partner to help you with it. I think particularly from a female perspective, talking to a male, if a woman in a relationship can go to her man and say, I really need your help in this, that's going to put the man at ease and say to want to come in and be the, because it's natural instinct for a man to want to protect, to help, to be the one. But it's like, I've got to have my defenses down first if I'm going to invite him to come in and then him be at ease.
And the more you each respectively do that, the more trust you gain in that process as a couple.
Yeah.
I know
I can bring him anything, and I know that, and that's an amazing thing.
Some of it's taken some time, especially for me, from a male's perspective. Yes, we like inherently want to, but there's a lot of pride and ego in the masculine energy. So, I mean, initially, feeling triggered by that and raising up defenses, but understanding that, you have some responsibility there as well. If your partner comes to you and has something that they want your help with, your first priority should be to help your partner. And if something comes up, then you do the same thing, and later you go to it.
Yeah.
I am not someone who like journaled every single day. I still don't. She journals so much. It's my way. But I have found the benefit in that and just writing it down. And because sometimes you write it down and you start asking yourself questions, and things will come that if you're just trying to go through it in your mind, you're just going to loop over and over and over again. Where if you're putting pen to paper, then you will get somewhere.
Yeah.
You'll have some progress. And it's not without reluctance. I mean, it always has reluctance for me, but I know if there's reluctance that I definitely need to do it.
Yeah. I love how you say when it's in your head, you loop. And it's like when you write it down, there's actually a different energy loop. So when you're writing, the writing hand is the outlet, but the non-writing hand is actually the inlet of all the inspirations. So that allows you to get the energy out, but receive new energy coming in as well.
That's so cool.
Right? Marlie, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I think the other important thing about relationships in general is we've kind of been sold this, like, you meet the one and it's a fairy tale from there, from ever now on forevermore. And I deeply believe that your partner and the person that you end up with in any, whether it's just a few years or a lifetime, it's a soul contracted decision to help you evolve and learn the lessons you need to learn. So your partner is going to be a very amplified mirror to the things that you need to learn, so him and I coming together so intensely, so quickly, and me getting triggered, there's no way that he could be the one who created the trigger, So his actions are triggering something old in me that's unhealed. And that's all with purpose. So I think that your relationships, their purpose is to help you both heal and evolve to a new level. And it's not sunshine and rainbows all the time, but if you can approach it yeah, you can approach it from that perspective and allow each other to evolve, you know, it makes it a whole lot easier. I just think so many people are sold like if we fight, then our relationship is bad. And it's like, no. That's not what it is.
But it's like in business, people talked about how a business can never outgrow the mindset of the owner.
Correct.
And I think relationship is the same. If you really want to learn about yourself, go into a relationship. Go and see what shit comes up.
Accelerated feeling.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing, because when we're on our own, it's easy to deal with our own shit. But when you're with somebody else, it's like what you guys are going through, right? There's a whole lot of, it's like the emotion gets doubled because you now have someone else's emotion to deal with as well. And I think one important point that you guys kind of raised is that don't take it personally. And I think a lot of female does it and a lot of male does it from a helping perspective, feeling responsible for our partner. We're not. And this is what I call it, almost like a cyclone, an emotional cyclone. Like the person started it and the partner receives it, and then it just goes into a massive cyclone loop where it just gets worse, especially when you don't talk about it. So I think if one person can start by realizing, yes, this is my own wound, and the other person can realize, oh, it's not my wound, but it's triggering me. So we both have something to work together. Then I think it would bring everybody closer because you now have a project to work on together. So I want to ask this question though. You guys talk about a lot about helping each other out, but I also understand that helping for a female is very different to helping for a male. And quite often male has got that technical brain, just like, okay, here's the problem, let's go and tackle it, let's go and solve it. But quite often that's not quite what a feminine energy desires for problem solving. It could be a bit full on for us. So Robert, what have you learned about helping Marlie that's quite different to how you used to perceive helping to be?
That's such a great question.
Thank you.
So I would like to also just introduce that since October, every other week when we don't have our little girls, when they're with their mom, every other week we are traveling across the United States camper van.
Yes.
So aside from the fact that we have
24/7,
2020 pandemic, quarantine together, we also chose to be in 100 square feet together all the time, through everything. So any number of circumstances.
Let's just make it harder.
Yeah, we're just gonna jump right in. And there have been multiple times where, because we run, she has an online business, we run it together, and there are complications when you're out on the road in the middle of nowhere, Wi-Fi and all this. There's things that come up, and it's a very successful business, but it's also growing. We're scaling, so like there's a lot, and to grow and scale a coaching business, especially, you are called to like energetically increase your space, and so then it's hard. It's hard on anybody and individually. So there's things that come up for her over the course of our trip where I feel like I've done something wrong. And
I hear that a lot.
I have my own wounding around that. Okay. And that is that's come to my attention. So what I've learned is that I don't have to fix anything. It's not my responsibility. Yeah. My responsibility is to love her and to hold space for her and to be there for her to go up and down. So we've come up with this this metaphor for the balance of feminine and masculine energies on a divine level. We love creating these metaphors. So it's like if you were to envision the Grand Canyon and the Colorado River. So the Colorado River, huge river carving through the earth, that is representative of like the female flow. So it's just flowing all through the canyon, and the structure,
crazy, chaotic.
yeah, rapids, all that stuff. The structure, the side of the canyon is that masculine energy. It doesn't just squeeze it in like this. It holds a big space and allows this river to flow, and then also in turn influence the space of the Grand Canyon, the walls. It carves into it, you know, so it increases our ability to hold that space for the female energy to flow. So it's that's kind of how I envision it. That's how I see things when she has something that, you know, I'm faced with, then I'm just holding the space. I'm not trying to fix it. And that's hard because from a male's perspective, especially somebody with a very analytical engineering mind, like, I want to fix it.
Yeah.
Initially, I always fix it. I want to fix what's going on, and that would just piss her off even more.
There's nothing to fix here. Well, because you know, a lot of my work around my own healing is allowing myself to like fully feel, you know, and so like crying, you know, I didn't cry for years, and in doing the work on myself, you know, it's opening the heart, it's allowing the emotions to come through in the moment. So, I mean, I'll cry 3 times a week, you know, just because I now, like, if I have any emotion that comes through, I'm just like, I just let it come out and cry. And in the beginning of our relationship, Robert's like, what's wrong? And like wanting to fix my crying. And I just
go get a box of tissue.
Now I'm like, I'll
put on some country music. You need a glass of wine. Here's a tissue box.
And I was like, I'll just say, like, I'm like, I want to cry. He's like, okay, cry. You know, and so now, like, that's all I need, right? It's just like him being steady and me having the space to like just express. Like, I just need to cry right now. I don't even have a reason why, but I need to, and so I'm crying. And for him that's been a big part of your evolution too. Like, there's nothing. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't make her cry. I don't need to stop her from crying. I just need to be here and be the space for her to cry. You know. And that's really huge. Huge for me.
That is huge.
Right?
Yeah.
My healing.
Yeah.
What about like rest stops, pulling off on the side of the highway, and me getting out of the van and just like walking away, muttering, cussing under my breath,
kicking the dirt.
And then he comes back in and he's just like, okay.
Marlie, have you discovered anything in terms of, I guess, adjusting your approach in helping Robert?
Oh, for sure. Well, because, you know, I coach for a living. So the big part in our relationship is making sure I'm not coaching him, you know? Like, I've just got to hold space for his own evolution, and we work through things, you know, but it's like, I don't take him through a coaching process unless that's what he wants, you know? Is like me just trying to like, here's what you need to do, you know. That's
and she hasn't. Like, I've never felt that at all in this whole process.
Yeah. A lot of times it is me having patience for him to process, you know, because like he said, he does get in his head a lot. He'll stay in his head for a long time. And I'm fast, and he's like his own pace, you know? So everything I do is super fast. And then it's like 20 minutes later, here comes Robert, you know? And so
accurate.
He takes like a longer time to answer than like I would, or what I would consider an average person would.
Or normal. Yeah.
I've adjusted, you know? And so I know he needs more than I think is enough time to sit and process. So for me has been just to sit there and let him do it.
I think it's I can only speak from the male perspective. I feel like it's a male thing because I'm like decoding layers and layers of ego in my mind each, because like, you know, I'll come to a breakthrough in my mind, and then ego's like, no. Screw that. That's not it.
But she's wrong. Yeah, I mean, it's like
So it's
kind
I'm
of fun.
quiet for like 5 to 10 minutes sometimes, just like
30 minutes. And I'm just sitting there, time I make up stuff, and half the time I'm like making a to-do list of the next thing I'm gonna do, you know? Okay.
I do agree that it's a male stuff because it happens exactly the same way in my household. I'm like, and I quite often in the past I got really triggered with my ex-husband where I'm like, mate, that's not the solution. I've already gone from 1 to Z and you were still at B. Hurry up. That's not the solution. You're wrong. And now I sort of learned that as a analytical mind, I think, Robert, I'm glad you said that. And this is what I've learned through working with men every single day is the story, you know, talk about inside out, the story that's in there, gosh, every man will have a Disney movie. And so as us female, it is our responsibility not to fix it, but just to sit there and really provide the space. And I think guys really appreciate that because you're not one that just goes, what is it? I can't take the silent treatment. Hurry up. And that is so good. So I'm glad you guys mentioned it.
Yeah. Well, and
any last advice?
Entrepreneur too, like female entrepreneur minds, we're like, take care of it, go, 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 you know?
Yeah. Have you guys got any last golden nuggets each that you would like to share for anyone who perhaps wanting to find their soulmate or is already in a soulmate relationship but wanted to take it to the next level?
I don't know. I mean, I would like to just continue to impress upon the importance of really like doing the work on yourself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop when you get into this kind of partnership, but that's the most important thing for me is my own personal ownership and getting to the truth of who I am and who I feel I am.
Yeah. I think too, like before you're in a relationship, you be it for you, you know, like find what's going on with you. In searching for someone else to complete you, like that search will never stop, even if you find somebody. But once you're in a relationship, I think it's like, see the magic of what it is, you know, like we don't get tired of each other because it's like every day is just like the beginning, you know, it just feels like a new day and it's fun. And, you know, he'll leave to go to the grocery store for 2 hours and then he comes back and I'm like, hey, you know? Like treat it like the magic that it is, you know, it's very easy in default mode to take the person that's in your life for granted. And I think even when you do have the intention of seeing the magic, you still end up defaulting to take somebody for granted. So like, if you always see it as the beginning, it's always going to have a story to tell, you know, there's always going to be more. So a lot of how we approach our relationship is like, in everything we do, it's like, this is just the beginning. Oh my gosh. Like, and it's so good. And this is just the beginning. Like there's so much more. And I mean, we're excited to go on the journey and evolve together. Because God, like, look at what we've done in 2 years. It's just like, where are we going?
It's ridiculous. You guys look like you've been together for years.
Well, we're pretty sure we've been together lifetimes.
We think that our souls knew each other in past lifetimes.
Yeah.
We may have been like mortal enemies at one point. Who knows?
I just want to tell you. Oh, Marlie and Robert, I had so much fun. You guys, I could talk to you guys all day. Like just the energy that's coming through the screen for me, it's live. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah. What a story. Maybe you guys will write a book one day.
We're coming.
For sure.
Once again, and thank you for all of you that are watching now and in the future. I will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.